I just want to not hate my life when I walk into this room. I'm not an expert in dark academia, but I am a girl on a mission. And I am an expert in having the world's most depressingly sterile bedroom. If you know, you know, but if you don't know, hey, my name's Wren. I make videos about interior design and creating an intentional home, and my home burned down last year. Kind of. It's complicated. It didn't technically burn down, but it had wind damage and ash damage and mass climate fallout, and we can't live there anymore. We can't go back. It's not safe. It's a long story. Anyway, here's a video about it. Go check it out. Because my partner and I couldn't get a new home for a long list of reasons, including but not limited to financial, logistical, environmental, moral, political, emotional, we were just kind of chaotically traveling full time until we figure something else out. And how am I coping with all of that trauma? Thank you. I'm so glad you asked. Lately, I've been coping by mentally redesigning all of the rooms in our soul-crushing short-term rental units. So today, we are dealing with this hunk of junk. Okay, so this is the view of the bedroom when you first walk in the door. I know it doesn't look too bad. It does have some cool interest with these two doors like next to the bed. So there's a closet on either side. It's a tiny closet, but that's a pretty cool feature. Everything else is just kind of white and gray and boring, and there's a TV across the bed that we don't really use very much. We have the window, and that's the whole room. That's the whole room. Let's talk about a couple key points. Number one, yeah, we're gonna have to deal with that for sure. It's a hard layout, so I don't think we can change much, but this window is a sore spot. Not only is there very limited privacy, we can see right into the homes of everyone across the street. These curtain holders are just like, yeah, falling off the wall at a moment's notice. This is what we look at every night when we're in bed. That door, it broke our first day that we were here, so we just haven't been using it. This electrical panel obviously needs something to be dealt with. That door goes to the bathroom. And you may notice there's no art on the wall. That's because it fell on us in the middle of the night. I don't know if you can see the command strip, but we were sleeping and just in the middle of the night, just came crashing down. So we're gonna, I guess, fix that. Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, cozy up by the fire with me, and let's talk about the goals, the makeover goals for this room. And what's wild is I feel like the bar is so low because this room makes me so sad. I really think the main makeover goal is like, I just want to not hate my life when I walk into this room. I don't think it's much to ask. I really don't. Let's drive down and get it a little more specific. Okay. Number one, I just want the space to feel cozy and intimate and welcoming. I want it to feel like a nice place to be, especially at the end of a long day. My second goal is we have to deal with the window. We have to deal with the window. So much noise and light and heat and cold come in through that window. It is in no way a well-suited window for a bedroom, and it has not been dealt with. And so we have to deal with it because I just want to sleep. I just want to sleep. I just want to sleep. So number two, make it easy to sleep. And finally, I want a quiet space to curl up with a good book or like journal or listen to a podcast. I just want a perch in the house because also our living room is not super comfortable. Our dining room is not super comfortable. The whole apartment is just kind of uncomfortable. And so I'm going to make myself a comfortable little perch in that room, and I can't wait. So I'm thinking I want to get a little out of my comfort zone on this one and go with a dark academia vibe here. Dark academia is a design style that I personally have been really kind of digging lately. And maybe because it's rooted in fantasy, right? Just imagine that you're a 19-year-old who has been whisked away to complete your studies in a historic gothic private school somewhere in Europe, and also it just happens to be autumn all the time. It's giving 100-year-old libraries, it's giving candlelit studies, and it just feels playful and full of mystery and mischief. And I think for a lot of millennials, it's about nostalgia. Our first taste of dark academia was the Harry Potter series. And who among us did not fantasize about getting our Hogwarts acceptance letter on our 11th birthday and being whisked away to a secluded hillside castle where we would wear robes, learn magic, and go on grand adventures with all of our friends? With no parents around to keep an eye on us? Please. But now we're adults and we can't have nice things anymore. So of course we are returning to and reclaiming this aesthetic. So we're looking at dark, moody color palettes, vintage furniture, rich texture, and an overall romantic and bookish atmosphere. I want to start with a mood board for this one because I don't really know what I want to do in here. I know that I have spatial limitations because the room is so small, so I'm gonna have to get creative since I can't bring in a ton of furniture. I expect that the layout of this room is gonna stay pretty much unchanged because I don't know what else I could possibly do in here. So I know the layout of the room, and I know that the primary like design focal point feature in the architecture is that little alcove that the bed gets tucked into, and I don't really know what I want to do with that yet. It could be wallpaper, or it could be art, or it could be like a drapey canopy situation. I don't know. There's options. Let's just dive in and see where this goes. Okay, so I want to start with sort of establishing a color palette. And instead of sitting down and deciding what my color palette is going to be, I like to kind of just let it emerge. So let's start with paint. I would say that most dark academia examples that I've seen have dark walls. That's not to say that you can't accomplish this style without dark walls. You totally can. Whole separate video. But for me, the white walls in that room are making me so depressed that I'm gonna go ahead and slap some paint on it for my mental health. Okay, so I found this graphic on Pinterest. Shout out to Posh Penny's blog for making this easy on me. And I think I'm kind of vibing this last one. Sherwin-Williams Black Bean. Let's look it up. Okay, so it turns out it's actually a dark brown with red undertones, which isn't really what I'm going for. It's showing up kind of more mauve on my screen, like a dark, dusty mauve. Reminder to always look up your paint colors and do not trust how they show up on your computer screen. Because here, when I get into the actual color space, I can see that it is a true warm brown. No purple in sight. It's pretty, but I think that the wood floor in the bedroom is kind of ashy. So I think that something a little more in the deep mauve world is going to balance that color and kind of be more of a vibe. So I used this website called Plan, which is awesome because it gives a really in-depth look at pretty much any paint color you can imagine. Not sponsored, just a fan. Highly recommend. And I think I landed on Sherwin-Williams Raisin, which is a deep brown with purple undertones. Obviously, there's no way to know if this is exactly the perfect color other than swatching it on the walls, which we're not doing because it's an Airbnb and they don't like when you paint the walls. But based on the information on Plan and where it falls in the color space, I feel pretty good about it. Okay, now I know I really want to use a wallpaper in this room and I don't know where yet, but I found this one on Etsy. I love it. I love that it's giving full dark academia vibes, right? It's moody, it's floral, botanical, but also look at these little snakes that are just kind of hiding throughout it. I'm obsessed. And I think that the colors are going to balance that paint color really well. So I love the way, even though there's only two things on our mood board right now, I love the way that they're starting to play together and we can kind of see the color palette emerging. Another element I know that I really want to incorporate is some kind of stained glass or a nod to stained glass somehow. Stained glass is having a big moment across all design styles right now, but it's an especially perfect fit for dark academia because it really evokes that kind of vintage gothic aesthetic. I don't want anything too colorful or vibrant though. I want to keep it moody. So something like this with these kind of desaturated greens and golds. Yeah, I think that's going to be perfect. Okay, so I feel like these three elements kind of make up our color palette, and then I'm going to use them to inform the rest of the design. And I think that this is a really great way to make a color palette instead of sitting down and going through your color theory and color psychology and trying to pick the secondary and complementary, blah, 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 whatever. Just like pick a paint that you vibe with and then pick a pattern or a print that you like, or whichever order you want to do those in. Some people pick the pattern first, and then pick a kind of decorative accent or detail. So I have paint, wallpaper, stained glass. That together is making up my color palette. That's such a more, for me, organic way to let the room kind of speak for itself instead of trying to fit it into the box of, I don't know, coolers told me that peach goes with blue. So that's what we're doing. No shade to coolers. A lot of people love it. Okay. So obviously next we're going to need to deal with the window issue in this room because I want to sleep better. I want to lean into some really big, heavy curtains that are not only going to block out the elements and the noise, but that also can kind of add a texture and a depth and a dimension to the design. So I'm going to go with these velvet ones, I think, to add that kind of rich textural element. Now moving into furniture, obviously we need a bed. So big, dark wood vintage bed frames are kind of the iconic dark academia look. And if you can't paint your walls, if you have white walls and are trying to get this vibe, that is the direction I would go. I would thrift something hefty and wood and old looking, and you'll be set. But for this room, I think that because we have dark floors, dark walls, and we'll probably end up with a dark ceiling somehow, I want to bring in some contrast to kind of balance it out. I think I want to go with a big brass bed frame. Something really ornate. It's still giving vintage, but it's going to bring in a little bit of contrast against the wall. And then I really love the idea of having a fireplace in there. A fireplace in a bedroom is such a dream. I personally cannot think of anything that screams dark academia more than a big wood fireplace. And I think I can fit one. It's bold, but I'm going to do it. I think I can fit one on the wall opposite the bed where the TV is now. So we're going to take down the TV and we're going to replace it with this electric fireplace. It's portable. It's freestanding. You just got to plug it in. And with most electric fireplaces, you can actually control the light feature, like fake flame, separately from the heat feature. So it kind of serves multi-purpose. It can either be just aesthetic, or it can be just functional, or it can be both, depending on the season. I am guilty of running the light in my electric fireplace in my bedroom just year round. And what is a cozy fireplace without a little seating area next to it? Let's add this big cozy armchair so we can curl up and read books by the fire, obviously. And then this mirror, I think is kind of a weird choice, but you're going to have to trust me on it. It's going to make sense, I promise. Just go with it. Again, it's brass, it's ornate, it's going to connect to the bed. I got a whole plan. Trust me. Obviously, we will need a cozy rug under the bed. I think we could go with a ton of different directions here, but I'm going to go with this blue and cream one from Ruggable because it is not a perfect match. It feels kind of like the wrong choice. It's not fully in our color palette. It's in the world of our color palette, but it's a little bit off. But something about it being imperfect keeps the room feeling kind of lived in, I think. Like sometimes when a room is too perfectly matched, it just starts to feel boring. It lacks personality. So I think the fact that this rug is not the obvious choice is what makes it interesting. Okay, now, one of the easiest ways I find to solidify the kind of overall vibe of the room is through artwork. So I want to pick a big focal piece that kind of screams academia. And I'm going to use a big old sturdy brass frame to echo that metal on the bed frame. We will also echo that brass metal by swapping out the light fixture above the bed and also by bringing in some candle sconces. And last but not least, I think every room needs some plants. But in order to keep the dark academia vibe in here, because like we can't let it lean too tropical, right? So to keep the vibe going, we're going to be sure to go with plants that have a low saturation to the greenery. So this is our mood board, right? I have pulled all of the elements of the room together into one place with a really clear aesthetic direction. And hot tip, I do this anytime I design a space in real life. It's usually something I make while I'm designing as opposed to ahead of time, but it serves as this kind of real-time visualization of the room. That way, when I'm shopping for furniture or accessories, I can try things out. Like I can audition different pieces of furniture to see how they fit with the rest of the room. For example, say that in this room, I wanted to swap out the chair or test out a different fireplace. Having this board gives me a chance to see those options in context. And then even once the room is done, it gives me a way to quickly see if something that I'm considering adding to the room is going to be a fit or not. Let's say I find a piece of art that I really love. I can easily drop it into the design to see if it's going to go with the overall vibe. And if you're like me and you love to treasure hunt at vintage shops or flea markets, having an image like this ready to go on your phone can help guide those treasure hunts because you can quickly see if that little trinket that you found is going to make sense in the space or not. That way you can treasure hunt a little more intentionally. Okay, I think we're ready to see how it all comes together. Okay, so we're going to start with this view, which is facing the bed, and then we'll shift into the fireplace and seating area. So obviously the first thing we're going to do is paint. And that's because we have to create the shell of the room before we can start filling it with pretty things. When I talk about the shell, I'm talking about walls, windows, floors, doors, and ceilings. Literal casing of the room. And actually, speaking of doors, let's just get rid of these ones for now. We're going to come back to them in a bit, but they're kind of cramping my style. Okay, so again, this is Raisin by Sherwin-Williams, and I love this color, or at least I love how it shows up on my screen. I think it's going to be so perfect for the vibe we're going for. Okay, let's talk about the windows in this apartment. They have no soul, so I'm going to bring back a little character by painting all of the trim black. And then I'm going to do one of my absolute favorite DIYs that I have ever done. So we're going to use electrical tape to create faux window mullions as a renter-friendly way to get that charming European look. So to do this, you're going to put electrical tape on the parts of the windows that you can't paint. So if you want to cover existing metal trim, cover that with tape. And then you're also going to use it directly on the glass to create those fake mullions, those lines through the glass panes. And you can make any design you want. I personally always go for like a classic grid, but you could totally do diamonds or an asymmetrical situation. Like map out your design plan and go for it. I did this in my old apartment and I loved it. It looked so good. And hot tip, if you live in a climate that has anything other than temperate weather, you want to spring for a higher quality electrical tape. I've done this with a $5 roll that I got at the hardware store and it was perfect. And I've done it with a roll of tape that I got in like a 4-pack for $2.99 off of Amazon, and it did not hold up to heat the same way. And so there are different ratings of electrical tape. Get something rated for heat, especially if it's going to be on your windows and you live in a sunny climate. If it's on for a long time, mine was on for, I think, 8 years, you will have to scrape some residue off at the end of your stay at your apartment. Just plan for that. It's not a big deal. Just get a razor blade and put on a podcast and go to town. Anyway, I did this in my old apartment. I loved it. It looks so good. We're doing it here. And honestly, I will probably do it in every apartment I ever lived in because it looked that good. I think it's a great way to make a huge impact without spending a ton of money. Okay, and then while we're at it, I'm going to paint the closet doors black to match. And I think I'm going to use a renter-friendly door molding kit to add some architectural interest here and definitely swap out the hardware. I found these beautiful lever knobs on Etsy. Yeah. Yep. This is a much better starting place for us to be able to bring in that dark academia design. Like already, I can see it. I think the reason you start with the shell from my mind is because once the room is cleared out, you can see the opportunities in a way that you can't see when there's furniture there. So by emptying everything, you're able to kind of look at the blank canvas and think about, okay, what does my starting point want to be? What should I do with the walls? What can I do with the doors? What can I do with the ceiling? Because once you have furniture in there, the furniture gets the attention, no matter how hard you try. I just think it's harder to see, like, what color do I want to paint the walls if there's a bunch of stuff in there? And I think it depends on how your brain works, because if you already have a ton of stuff, then you need to make sure that your paint goes with your stuff, so you don't have to get all new stuff. But in a situation like this where we're starting from zero, I'm doing that shell first. Okay, let's talk about what to do with this wallpaper. I think the obvious choice would be to put it here in this little alcove where the bed's gonna go, so that it creates sort of a focal point behind the bed. Or it could go on the wall opposite the bed, like behind the fireplace could be cool, but very busy, maybe not very relaxing. Then I got inspired by one of the living rooms in this video. I think I'm gonna take a note from them and put it on the ceiling. I think that wallpapering the ceiling is such a great thing for a bedroom specifically. I think it's great in any room, but especially in a bedroom, because it's going to bring the ceiling down and create a really warm and intimate feeling atmosphere. Gonna make it feel more cozy. That's definitely what we're going for here. Also, it's a way to add interest without completely visually overwhelming the space, but it gives you something interesting to look at if you're having trouble sleeping in the middle of the night and you just are laying awake staring at your ceiling. Might as well have something pretty up there. So I think it's a great idea. So yeah, let's pop it on the ceiling. Oh, I love that. Okay, then while we have the ladder out and we're working on the ceiling, we're also going to replace the light fixture. Okay, so I found this really pretty flush mount with brass hardware. And a hot tip, in a dark academia space, lighting is everything. Lighting will make or break the vibe in most spaces, but especially in an academia space, you want to go with really warm, really dim lighting. So you're giving it that like snuck into the library after curfew to obtain forbidden knowledge kind of glow. Then we're going to slide in that rug. Reminder to always lay down your rug before you bring in your furniture. And then our bed frame. The reason I like this one in particular, other than the fact that I think it's beautiful, is because this room has a lot of long, straight lines. So the curves in this bed and the roundness of the details are going to help break that up a bit and bring some balance into the overall room. Now, what do we do over the bed? Like I said earlier, we could hang some art, kind of a classic choice. Like I don't think anyone is ever going to be mad at some art hung over your bed. Unless, of course, it falls on you in the middle of the night because you hung it with command strips. But I digress. But then I thought, in the spirit of like true dark academia, we got to do bookshelves. And look, we could go big and do a custom build library wall, something really dramatic and sweeping. But I wanted to keep the ideas here relatively accessible and in budget. So I'm just going to go with 3 floating shelves above the headboard. And I'm keeping the wood a similar tone to the floor, just so that there's not too many different colors and too much going on. Okay. Now, this is the point in the process where I was struck with kind of an unhinged idea. Are you open to an unhinged idea? If not, you should stop watching this video. I don't know if it's unhinged. You tell me. Okay. Remember the stained glass from the mood boards? Well, I really want to have some element of that in here, but I don't want to cover up the window because I tend to feel really like claustrophobic when the windows are covered. Like if I cannot see out, I don't mind closed blinds, but if I can't see out, I don't like it. But these closet doors, what if I could replace them with doors that have windows on the top panel, and then I could use those windows to put stained glass vinyl on? And then the obvious bonus would be if I could figure out a way to get lighting into the closet, then when the closet lights were on, it would cast the light through the stained glass window for a moody ambient glow. Is it unhinged or is it genius? So I did measure these doors because they're kind of a weird size. Everything in this place is kind of a weird size. It's just all kind of weird. But would you believe that these closet doors just so happen to be almost the exact measurements as the IKEA doors that are designed to go on the Billy bookshelves? Okay. I'm not even a big IKEA hack girly, but I freaking bet you, money. I don't have any money. Don't come for me. But I bet you that I can make this happen. I bet you I could replace those doors. If I couldn't find real doors to replace them with, I bet you I could do it with the IKEA ones. I bet it would look so cool. Oh, let's see it. How cool does this look? Oh my God, how cool does this look? I feel like this is the moment the room is really starting to make sense to me. Like I can see it coming together. I know I said that earlier, but this is like, yes, this is the vibe. Tell me, do you love it? Do you hate it? I feel like this could be really divisive. I'm going to go with love it. Oh, feel free to disagree with me. I'm nervous everyone's going to hate it. And then they're going to unsubscribe. Okay. Anyway, let's keep it pushing. Let's move on to styling the bookshelves. I want to stay true to the dark academia vibe here and give mostly books. But I also do want to have some texture and some interest. Not that books aren't interesting, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to limit myself to 1 piece of styling per shelf. Candles are a dark academia staple. So let's do a candle on the bottom shelf. And then I think obviously a trailing plant on the top shelf, probably some English ivy that, similar to the bed frame, is going to bring in some movement and help break up all of those straight lines. It's really going to help soften the edges of the room by spilling down towards the bed. And then I found this incredible death's head moth from an Etsy shop. The shop is called KPH Entomology, and they're a UK-based shop that handcrafts their displays. This sounds like an ad. It's not. I just really like this shop. They handcraft all of their displays using ethically sourced insects, which is very important to me. And so this display is not only beautiful and is not only responsibly sourced, so I can feel good about it, but it also is giving dark academia. So that's going to be our little piece of decor on the middle shelf. And let's stack it on top of some books to give it a little height. Okay. How restrained of me. Now we're ready for books. And a quick safety tip. I have to say this. If you live in a region that is prone to earthquakes, don't do this. As a former Los Angelino, I just need to say it. Don't do this. If your area is prone to earthquakes, go with the art option. Go with the wallpaper option. Anything on a shelf above your bed, that shelf needs to be anchored into the wall, and you got to use earthquake putty on that shelf so that it never moves, okay? Anything above your bed needs to be properly secured, literally earthquake proof, so that if there's an earthquake while you're sleeping, you don't get knocked out by all of your stuff falling off the wall and bonking you on the head, okay? I just care about you. Please be safe. Okay, but we're going to pretend that earthquakes don't exist and that I can put these books above my bed because they're pretty. Okay, now the final touch for this room is hanging those big ol' heavy curtains. So I picked these velvet ones that are really close to the color of the wall because I don't want the curtains to pull focus, right? I want the window to be a moment for the eye to rest. So they're going to kind of fade into the walls, but then the velvet is going to bring in just a little bit of texture, just a little bit of depth so that it breaks up the wall without being too distracting. And the bedding here, I kept it really simple. It does seem like a neutral white linen sheet is kind of that dark academia staple. I'm just going to add one colorful pillow to give the bed a little bit of interest interest in texture. And truthfully, I would probably add a throw blanket or like a quilt to the end of the bed. But due to the limitations of Canva and the fact that I'm not a professional room renderer, I couldn't get it to work because I'm just a peasant. So we got to imagine it's there. We got to imagine there's a blanket on the bed. Probably like a subtle plaid one, like this. Okay, and that's the side of the room. Now let's turn it around and focus on the wall opposite the bed. Now, as our starting place, we've got paint, wallpaper, curtains, and a rug. We've also got this ugly electrical panel that I want to cover up without losing access to it. So we're going to start with a fireplace, which honestly, I'm really excited that we can actually fit in here because that space seems really narrow with how it's set up right now. So I wasn't sure that we were going to be able to, but then I measured and we totally can. And I think that just goes to show you like the importance of good design choices because the TV in there is not a good design choice. And bad design can make your space feel literally smaller and more cramped than it really is. So fireplace in, and I want a really nice focal point in this room. So I'm going to hang that big piece of artwork right above the fireplace. And for the bedroom, I love using themes of 2 or more in your artwork. Anything that's not solo. So I love using art either in pairs or groups or art that depicts intimate moments because I feel like then we're calling that energy into the space. I also love that this one in particular has these big arched Gothic windows, right? So not only is it reinforcing that dark academia vibe, giving an architectural interest to the room that we don't have in the room, but the image of a window is also giving us the feeling of a world beyond the artwork. So even though we can't actually look out this window, I feel like this image is giving us the sense of there being a window there. So it kind of expands the space. And then I'm going to put up candle sconces on either side of that artwork. So it's like flanked. These are so moody and cool. I thought about using actual wall sconces, which you totally could do. I had picked these kind of long tubular ones to reinforce the strong parallel lines in this view. But I feel like the candles are just such a staple of dark academia that these sconces felt more right. So I think that this comes down to a question of form over function. Is there enough light in this room? Like we do have plenty of light. I don't need to add more. And so I can afford to go with candle sconces. But if you have a really dark room, if there's not a window, like maybe you want a proper light fixture in there. Now let's turn our attention to the corner. As I mentioned, the door on the left actually does not work, which is so annoying. But for the general purposes of design, we do get the benefit of having a corner. Because if we don't need to use that door as a pathway, which honestly would be much better for the flow of the room if we could, but since we can't, then we can use it for design. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. We've been making it work. It's fine. So because the door doesn't work, then we can actually treat this like a cute little corner where we can curl up and read one of the many books from our bookshelves. So obviously we're going to need that big comfy chair in here. And then this is where the mirror comes in. Stay with me. I'm going to use that big floor mirror to mask the electrical panel while also giving us a place for fit checks. And I think that that's going to work out. It hides it without making it inaccessible. And then we're ready for finishing touches. Wait, hang on. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm on my lunch break and I can't stop thinking about the mirror. I like the floor mirror in theory, but I've been thinking about it in practice and I'm not convinced. Because if we think about it, the instance when you need to access your electrical panel is usually a stressful one. Like it's because something is wrong, right? Like you blew a fuse or your power went out or some kind of disaster happened and you need to turn off the power, or you're like in the middle of construction and trying to swap out a light and you forgot to turn the power off. Like I just thought of the experience of trying to move this like gigantic 200-pound, like 6-foot mirror out from behind the chair without breaking it in the middle of the night when the power is out and I'm scared and we're like freaked out. No, I think that maybe that's not the best way to set myself up for success in the instance that I need to access the electrical panel. I think we could do better than that. And I know that this is a hypothetical design scenario, but I still want to give practical and reality-based solutions. And I don't think that mirror is one of them. So an alternative is to cover it up by hanging art. And I didn't want to do this at first because I really like the idea of the art over the fireplace being the focal point, being kind of the only thing to look at. Even though art wasn't my first choice, I do think it's going to be kind of infinitely more practical. And plus, Having a mirror in the bedroom can make the energy bouncy and loud and can make it hard to sleep. So let's just hang some art to cover it. Bonus points would be if I hung the art using like a hidden hinge so that it didn't have to come off of the wall to access the breaker. It just kind of opened. But I don't want to just like slap a piece of art over the panel and call it a day, right? So we need to do something to balance it out on the other side of the room. Now this room has a lot of symmetry going on. So we have two options. One, we can lean into that symmetry by hanging symmetrical wall art pieces, or we can choose to lean away from that symmetry by hanging asymmetrical art that's going to help break it up. What do you think? Which one do you like better? Or would you have kept that mirror? Power outage be damned. Let me know in the comments because I'm really undecided. Okay. Now we're back for finishing touches. So I think I'm going to keep it pretty simple. Let's layer in some eucalyptus in a big textured vase. I don't know if this style of vase is dark academia. I think it's probably not, but I also think that's cool. I think that it's cool to like layer in different styles and keep things from feeling too heavy. And I like the way it looks, so I'm going to keep it. Then let's add this plaid pillow to give some visual interest to that chair, make it an extra cozy corner. I also like the way that plaid contrasts against the floral. I think that's a cool like mixed print moment. And that pillow is going to make it an extra cozy place for our little cat to curl up, because we all know that this is going to be his favorite spot in the house once we're done. He's going to spend all of his time here, except for when he's on the balcony. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, then you obviously need to go watch the video where I turn the balcony of this apartment into a little cat oasis. Well, it's an oasis for me, but also he gets to come. It's totally cat-friendly balcony makeover. I don't own a cat. Okay, anyway, that's the design. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Stained glass, no stained glass, artwork versus mirror, what's the vibe? And if you want to check out that balcony video, just click the link on screen and I'll meet you there.